Hey guys, I had the most trouble, most technical difficulties getting online, but I'm so glad to be here. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Hillary Rank, and I help women look and feel great in their 40s and beyond. And tonight's live stream is about a topic that I get asked about all the time, and I see women asking about all the time, and that is how to lose belly fat. This can be an issue for women in their 40s, well, for everyone, but especially women in their 40s, as we're approaching menopause and our estrogen and progesterone are lowering. So this does cause a little bit more weight in our stomachs. But hormones are not the only reason. You can absolutely overcome all of that, and you'll find out why in just a bit. So before we get started, if you have not downloaded my free guide to getting rid of the over 40 weight gain, please check out the link in the video notes, and you can download it right from there. So let's get started. So let's face it, we could get away with a lot more when we were in our 20s and 30s. Like, hello, I used to be able to eat late night burritos, Taco Bell, and still have a flat stomach. Well, not so much anymore. So I really want to dispel the myth that there is some secret ab exercise to help you lose belly fat, and there isn't. And while ab exercises can increase your core strength, which is very important, you should really have core strength, but it doesn't get rid of the fat over the muscle. So I want to go through the top 3 ways that you can get rid of belly fat without exercising. So the first one is getting enough sleep. And I know as you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, girl, I don't have time to sleep. There's just too much to do and not enough time to do it. I've got such a busy life. And, sometimes I just don't want to sleep because you are go, 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 and then you want to stay up watching TV. Well, that's really the worst thing that you can do. Chronic lack of sleep will bring you really closer to the end of the road. And I mean, for real. So not only does it have a significant impact on your health, it causes an increase in belly fat. And I'll tell you why. So when you don't have enough sleep or poor sleep quality, it boosts your levels of cortisol. And while we do need cortisol to live, chronically high levels of cortisol is very bad. It's a hormone that is released in response to stress. You want your cortisol to release when you're in a fight or flight situation. It started when we were cavemen and we had like saber-toothed tigers or some kind of dangerous situation happening. So it is essential for our survival. But when you're when you have chronic cortisol, it's very, very bad. And so it does do, when you have elevated cortisol, it increases the amount of visceral abdominal fat that you carry deep in your belly. And we all know that having a higher amount of belly fat is really bad for our health in many ways, because it has been shown to increase your insulin resistance and a risk of metabolic syndrome, which is a precursor to heart disease and type 2 diabetes. And that's something that we want to avoid at all costs. And cortisol also suppresses our immunity and makes us more susceptible to colds and flus. So going into cold and flu season, that's not a good thing. So get more sleep, definitely. And skimping on sleep also alters your levels of appetite hormones. And I get this all the time. If I get a really poor night's sleep, I crave carbs and sugar so badly. And that's because it alters your levels of leptin and ghrelin, which control your appetite. So you're just more apt to overeat when you haven't got a good night's sleep. So in order to reduce your belly fat, you want to get more sleep. And if you haven't heard about proper sleep hygiene, I'm going to give you some tips right now. So avoiding blue light from your computer, your iPhone, your smartphone, and your tablets. They do have blue light filters that you can get on your phones. That's probably not quite enough, but that can help. And you can get those really fancy. I was going to dig out. I have some blue light blocker glasses. They're red in lenses, and that will block out the blue light. So you want to avoid that 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed. And then meditate. I used to scoff at meditating and think it was nonsense, but I really do. Once I took it seriously and just practiced, I do credit it for profound changes in my entire life. So I suggest that you try it. And then taking a warm bath. So light some candles, get some essential oils going on, and put in your headphones and do your meditation while you're taking the bath, and you'll get a better night's sleep. Okay, on to number 2. This is the number 2 thing that causes an increase in belly fat. And if you can avoid it, you can lose belly fat, and that is stress. I cannot emphasize the detrimental effects of stress. A few years ago, well, several years ago, I was walking into a gym and meeting with a trainer, and they could just tell from the look on my face that I just was affected by so much stress. And I agree. I pinpoint every single major health issue that I've had as a result of stress. So that would be my autoimmune disorder, interstitial cystitis, hypothyroidism, and hormone imbalances. It's all a result of stress. And while I've reduced my stress, I'm still recovering from that. So I find when most people hear that stress is an issue, you may like hear what I'm saying, but many people don't listen or do anything about it. And maybe it's because you don't know what to do about it. But lack of stress, just like sleep, is deadly. And so, not to mention, along with lack of sleep, increased stress increases your cortisol. And as I mentioned before, that increases belly fat. But I want to tell you guys a little gem of information, especially for those of you who are strict with dieting or who are chronic dieters. So women who are very strict with their diet, they tend to have an overactive stress response and elevated cortisol levels. And that is a result of being very concerned about what they're eating. So anybody who's stressed knows, like, stress is like a snowball effect. It's like once one thing happens and you get stressed, you are very unable to deal with any other stressors. So if you're always stressed all the time about what you're eating and you have other things piled upon it, that's stress after stress. So those who are very strict about eating, they tend to weigh more than those who are not as strict about what they're eating. And that's why the ones who are strict about their eating, chronic dieters, tend to overeat in response to stress. So when women do overeat in response to stress, they tend to gravitate towards comfort foods. Like, seriously, whenever I'm stressed, I definitely have the urge to pick up a donut or pasta or something very high in carb, maybe high in sugar, and very high in fat and calorie laden. So this equals packing on extra belly fat. And stress also leads to increased inflammation. And inflammation is so bad because not only can it add, well, this isn't super bad, but it will add extra pounds to you when your body's inflamed. The precursor to every single chronic disease, like cancer, or any kind, like Crohn's, like digestive issues, autoimmune disease, the precursor is inflammation. So you want to avoid inflammation at all costs. So if you don't have a handle on your stress, you need to get a handle on your stress. And if you're looking for some different techniques, you can check these out. I post about these in my Facebook group, Fit 40 and Fabulous. And I will post a link to that also in the video notes. Okay, here it is. The number 1 way to lose belly fat, and it's not exercising. But I'm going to recap. Number 3 was getting more sleep. Number 2 is stressing less. And then number 1, here it is, changing your diet. By like all accounts, your nutrition is like 70 to 80% of any fat loss effort. And that includes, because you can't spot tone, your fat loss effort will include losing belly fat. And I'm not talking about going on a diet. I'm talking about changing your diet, because diets don't work, and that's the topic for another video, and I'm not going to get into that tonight. I'm talking about I'm not talking about being super strict about what you're eating. I'm talking about adopting an 80-20 lifestyle. So that means 80% of the food that you're eating should be from whole foods. You've heard this all before. Lean protein, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. And then 20% should be now I'm telling you, it should be that higher calorie, higher sugar, maybe, or higher fat comfort foods. But then in order to lose fat, all you need to do is just eat a little less than what your body burns. And if you feel like you have digestive distress after eating, and it might not happen immediately after, it could happen hours or maybe even a couple of days, and I'm talking about gas, burping, or stomach pains, really, you might want to consider cutting out gluten and dairy for 2 weeks and see how you feel. And I know that seems so intimidating. It like literally intimidated me in the past. Like I was like, no way, no, how am I going to do that? But as time went on, I got warmed up to the idea and figured, let me just try it, see how it goes. And I find the best method is to focus on what you can eat and not what you can't eat, because if you're focusing on what you can't have, that makes you want it even more. So there's tons of foods that you can eat. You can eat potatoes. There's a lot of gluten-free products out there. There is even a decent tasting vegan cheese, which I do eat now. And I'll use hummus as spreads, and other like dairy-free dressings and whatnot. So it's worth a shot if you have stubborn belly fat, you've tried everything else, and you don't know where to go. I suggest the first things I suggest to my clients is cutting out gluten and dairy for a period of time and seeing how it is. And I'm not talking about doing it forever, but you need to do a test to see if that's what's causing you slight digestive discomfort. Okay, so there you have it. The top 3 ways to lose belly fat. And that is 3, get more sleep, 2, reduce stress, and number 1, change your diet, change your nutrition. So just a reminder, if you haven't already, if you have not downloaded my free guide to getting rid of the over 40 weight gain, there is a link in the video notes, and I will talk to you soon, actually on Thursday. All right, have a great night, everyone.